Today on Comicstorian, Spider-Man 2099 is about to get fired from being Spider-Man. This is Comicstorian. We take your favorite comic books, we break them down into a bare-bones synopsis, giving you the bare-bones plot, cutting out the B-plots and the extra stuff and all that other stuff that goes on in the comic. This allows you to know what's going on in the core plot line, but if you decide to go buy these issues for yourself, for your collection, you'll still have something to collect. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today's video is sponsored by Ren. I care about this planet, and I'm aware of the ongoing climate crisis that we face, so we've partnered up with Ren to help reduce our carbon footprint. Everyone's lifestyle emits CO2 to some degree, no matter what you do. But together, we can work towards lowering that, and that's why we're excited to work with this company. Ren is a simple and effective way to make a difference in the climate crisis. Ren is a website where you can calculate and track your carbon footprint and work towards offsetting it by helping fund carbon-reducing projects such as tree planting or rainforest protection. You just answer a few questions about your lifestyle and learn how you can reduce it. I try and lower my carbon footprint by biking when I can, and every little bit helps. Offset your carbon footprint with Ren. The first 100 people who sign up using the link in the description will have 10 extra trees planted in their name. Help save our planet with Ren. Now I hope you guys enjoy my audio drama of Spider-Man 2099 issues number 39 and 40. To catch you up, Spider-Man's longtime girlfriend Dana has been killed by Venom 2099. While this is going on, a Green Goblin 2099 has been staging to basically show Spider-Man as a villain. And Tyler Stone, the head of an organization known as Alchemex, is injured and in the hospital, and everyone believes him to be dead, which has placed Miguel O'Hara, who is Spider-Man 2099, in charge of Alchemex. So that's it. Everyone's dealing with the loss of Dana, and Green Goblin wants to cause more problems. Here we go. At the hospital, Tyler Stone looks at the doctor from his bed. I want to speak to Dana. Tell me what's going on, telling the doctor that if he won't listen to him, then he would like to speak to President Doom. That isn't possible right now, the doctor tells him. But Tyler continues to press the issue, raising his voice and shouting. And the doctor finally sighs. I regret to inform you that Miss D'Angelo is dead. Sadness fills Tyler's eyes as he looks at the doctor, a tear creeping down his cheek. Tell me how. Meanwhile, over with Spider-Man, he yells out in pain as one of the Goblin's colorful bombs slams into his back. You really should be learning to watch your back, Spider-Man! If you'd like, I'll give you a chance to turn and face your destroyer before I finish my work. Spider-Man begins to plummet out of the sky, but manages to shoot a web and swing to a nearby building. Who the shock are you? He demands as he whirls back onto the Goblin. I'm the Goblin, and I'm here to reveal you for the fraud that you are! The Goblin shouts, continuing his pursuit. He lashes out with his claws, but Spider-Man leaps, avoiding the attacks. You have betrayed the good people of downtown, and you must be forced to confess! Although I doubt one such as you will be genuinely penitent. The Goblin hisses, and he whirls around, throwing a bat trap out that wraps around Spider-Man, pinning his arms to his sides, allowing him to fall through the air. That wasn't much of a chore, the Goblin says with a smirk. And down on the street below, Casey and Raph drive towards the square at the word of the Goblin. Wait! Up there! I see him! Casey shouts, looking up to see the Goblin and Spider-Man fighting it out. But as he falls, Spider-Man shoots out a web line from his wrist, wrapping it around the Goblin and pinning his wings to his side. You fool! I can't fly with my wings entangled like this! Then get this bat thing off me and I'll save us both! Spider-Man snaps, but the Goblin shakes his head. I'd rather we both die! The two glare at each other as they continue to fall through the sky towards the street below, moving much slower than you would actually assume. They're both gonna die. Both of them, Casey whispers as she watches them plummeting, but the Goblin finally relents. All right, you win! He shouts, deactivating the bat trap, releasing Spider-Man. Smart move. Now go loose and I'll snag you. Spider-Man shouts, but the Goblin flexes his wings, snapping the webs and freeing himself. He whirls around, throwing a Goblin bomb back at the web slinger. It's my mission to rid the world of hypocrites and fools. The bombs hit him in the back of the head, swirling the world around him, forcing him to plummet out of the sky, landing on a pile of garbage. Shaking his head, Spider-Man struggles to his feet, and then he looks up to see that he is now surrounded by bizarre colors and dozens of goblins. He doesn't think. Immediately, he leaps out, attacking the nearest Goblin. S-Man, get away from him! Casey shouts next to Raph. Spider-Man whirls, seeing two of the Goblins nearby. One is trying to say something, but Spider-Man can't make out the words, leaping forward, attacking the nearest Goblin. Casey looks in shock as Spider-Man is now punching Raph in the face as we see what is actually going on. I confronted him with his lies and he lashed out at me, just as he will with anyone who challenges him. The Goblin hisses at them, trying to reveal the truth about Spider-Man, but Spider-Man looks up still confused, attacking any Goblin that he can reach. People are screaming as he is now attacking the pedestrians, and they begin to scatter. Don't worry, I'll keep him off of you. I will be the hero of downtown. Spider-Man, face me if you dare! The Goblin shouts, drawing Spider-Man's attention. He whirls again, this time able to make out the Goblin's words, realizing that this must be the real deal, and he attacks him. Slashing through the Goblin's wings before he can lose him again, he finally realizes what he has to do, closing his eyes, trying to shut out all the strange colors and multiple villains. And he listens to the Goblin's taunting words moving around him. It's at that moment that he figures out where the Green Goblin is, turning around, firing his webs, bringing the Goblin up short. He leaps fast, kicking the Goblin in the face, and then as he whirls around, he punches him in the gut, bringing him down, striking him again in the head. He closes his eyes, shaking his head, as the world returns to normal and he realizes that he is now surrounded by people. Casey rushes out of the crowd, moving quickly up to Spider-Man. For a while, I thought I knew you, but now it's like I don't know you at all. She snaps at him. Spider-Man tries to explain, but the Goblin interrupts him, telling the crowd that he only tried to show Spider-Man the truth. Spider-Man leaps out of the angry crowd, sticking to the nearby wall, looking back at them. If you want to listen to the Goblin's lies and distortions, go ahead. You don't need a protector. You need a keeper. Spider-Man snaps at everyone. One of the angry people in the crowd then shouts back at him. Why don't you just keep going and not come back? He says. Spider-Man looks at them. Oh, really? What if I want to come back? What do you do about it? His eyes widen as everyone draws their guns and knives at him. He swings away, making his way back up to the upper city, angry that he's been fired from a job that he never wanted in the first place. But as he reaches the rain-swept buildings of the upper city, his eyes widen as the debris from a destroyed drone rains down upon him. Looks like the pieces of Doom's EMP, he thinks to himself. What happened to Doom? Days pass and Miguel finally manages to get a hover to the White House, staring out the window, barely registering the destruction below. The hover transport lands and his top-tier Alchemex security officers step out, weapons raised to clear the area. Okay, Mr. O'Hara, we're clear. The captain tells him, motioning for him to depart. His security detail takes positions, guarding the head of Alchemex as he begins to sift through the destruction, and he finally reaches down, finding something that he didn't even know that he was looking for, holding up the cracked placard from the desk of Tyler Stone. Miguel frowns while looking at it, and he finally turns back to the hovercraft, motioning to his men that he is ready to leave. Meanwhile, back at Alchemex, the workers are going about their day, but they all turn as Tyler Stone is moving through the building, hooked up to a high-tech hover chair / hospital bed. He enters the lab where they're keeping Kron, interrupting the two scientists who are speaking. One side, please. Kron looks at his father from behind his glass tube. Well, well, well. Look who's here. You've never looked better, Dad. Tyler doesn't respond, just staring at his son impassively. Is it my son or is it some sort of replica? The news indicated that Venom had no internal structure. Tyler says to the head scientist, and the man explains Venom and Kron bonded at a molecular level, and thus he acquired all of the symbiote's traits. As he begins to continue, Tyler interrupts him, asking him to answer the question. Yes, sir, we believe it is your son. The scientist coughs, and Tyler nods, turning away. Good. Kill him, he says sharply, and Kron begins to shout at his father through the glass, while Tyler explains that Kron has no legal status since he was already declared dead. Have him disposed of, permanently, he says as he hovers out of the room, but the scientist calls out to him. Mr. Stone, you can't. Questionable legal status or not, if no other reason, then you're not in charge. Miguel O'Hara is. Tyler nods and turns back, stating, I will be in charge by the end of the day, so best stay on my good side. Having returned to the city, Miguel is swinging through the air as Spider-Man, thinking about how he no longer has to be Spider-Man, that he has technically been fired by the people of the city, but that it's almost become a guilty pleasure to be Spider-Man. He flips through the air and his eyes widen as he realizes a group of Thorites are below, burning an effigy of him. As he gets closer, he hears screaming and sees the Spider-Man squirming in the flames, and he lands in front of the burning man, moving to free him, but a plastic hammer bonks him on the back of the head. Then he turns back to see the angry Thorites moving towards him. Shouting that he's a traitor and a corporate stooge, one shoots an arrow at him, and Spider-Man twists, catching it. This is nuts! I thought Thorites were supposed to be peaceful! Spider-Man snaps, and the Thorites rush him, but Spider-Man easily knocks them away, and then he sees one of the Thorites that he recognizes. Of course, how could I not recognize you? Spider-Man snaps as he reaches out, grabbing the Vulture by the coat. But the Vulture pulls free his claws, trying to attack Spider-Man, before quickly turning and running away with the rest of the Thorites. Spider-Man quickly puts out the flames, pulling the Spiderite down. Come on, you'll be alright, he whispers, and as he puts the man on the ground, he turns to the shout of an incoming flyboy to call for the medics. They said that you were a fraud, that you gone corp. Say it isn't true. The man coughs at Spider-Man's feet as he pulls off his mask, and Miguel's eyes widen beneath his mask as he recognizes the Thorite from his first day as Spider-Man, the one who started the Spiderite movement. The flyboy comes up, commenting that the guy's probably a goner, and Spider-Man whirls around in anger, backhanding the flyboy, and the young Spiderite smiles at him. I knew it. I knew you were a hero still. Wait till I tell Lorraine. The man gasps before settling back down and dying. Wait, no. I never even knew your name. Later, Miguel straightens his tie in the hollow replica of Lila in his office in Alchemex. There's a chime and an announcement from Lila that Tyler's waiting for him at the door, and it opens up with Tyler floating in. Hello, Miguel. You're looking well? Hello, Tyler. You look like crap. Tyler doesn't take the bait, instead asking Miguel if he needs a ride to Dana's funeral. Miguel declines, asking if Tyler has been to see Kron. Yes, I ordered him killed, Tyler says impassively, and Miguel is shocked. Tyler waves it away, noting that Kron is an animal that needs to be put down. He's your son, Miguel shouts. Exactly. Who better to take his life than the one who gave it to him? Tyler says, turning back to Miguel, explaining that he will be taking back control of Alchemex. Glad to give it back. I wouldn't want to risk turning into you, Miguel says sharply. As he turns it back towards the door, Tyler pauses, telling Miguel that while it may be hard for him to understand, I really did care about Dana, Miguel. There was a sweetness and a joy in her that touched me. The simple truth is that she made me happy. They both pause as violin music begins to fill the room, and they both turn to see Lila, who smiles at them as she continues with her hollow violin. I thought it was appropriate. If you like, I also know Turkey in the Straw, she says with a smile, and Tyler sighs, shaking his head, turning to leave. I hate that program. The funeral passes quickly, with Father Jennifer speaking, saying that while they didn't always see eye to eye, she will always have a love for her sister. Next is Gabe, who glares at Miguel the whole time, thinking about how, if there is a higher power, then he should have saved her. And then Xena talks about how she's always competed with Dana, about how she saved her in the end, how she wishes that they could be friends. And when Miguel is asked to speak, he steps forward, stumbling over a few words before he finally steps down, apologizing, and walks away from the funeral. A short time later, he's sitting underneath a tree, looking at the nearby gravestone, where a woman is placing a Spider-Man mask, and he gets to his feet, walking over. Excuse me, is your name Lorraine? He asks, and she looks at him in surprise. Yes, do I know you? Did you know Kenny? She asks, and he nods, telling her. I knew him briefly. She smiles. None of his friends came. Once the Spiderites were endorsed by Doom, they said Spider-Man went corporate and the movement fell apart, but Kenny kept believing in him. She says with a tearful smile. Believing in what? Miguel asks her, and Lorraine turns to him, explaining that Kenny believed that Spider-Man would make the world a better place, that once he saw Spider-Man's face, he realized it was the face of the future. She begins to cry and apologizes. I have no one else, I'm so sorry, she says, and Miguel pulls her into a hug, consoling her. I am too, he whispers. And the next day, Tyler hovers into Miguel's office. Morning, Tyler, you missed the funeral, Miguel notes as he sips his coffee. I changed my mind, not one for public displays of emotion, Tyler tells him, and he looks around asking if Miguel has cleared his things out so that Tyler can take control. Well, see, that's a bit of an issue. The systems are in disarray right now. No one is sure who's in charge of what. So until someone is sure, I thought I'd hang around, Miguel says, taking another sip, and Tyler looks at him. You don't understand. I'm back, he says shortly, and Miguel shakes his head. You don't understand. You're gone. Miguel explains that he will start to run Alchemex with compassion and try to save the world. And he's already rescinded the order to execute Kron, aka Venom 2099. You think that you're going to usurp me? Tyler asks, and Miguel explains that security was informed that Tyler is not in his right mind and that his doctors have been paid to verify it. Do you have anything else you want to say to me before I have you escorted out? Miguel asks, and Tyler glares at him. I made you, Miguel! You'll do as I tell you, when I tell you, because I'm your father! Miguel is unfazed as he already secretly knows this news. He looks at Tyler, sipping his coffee. Yeah, I know. Now get out of my office, Dad. And the story of Spider-Man 2099 is beginning to come into its conclusion now. We had to do these 2 issues as they basically explain the direction that Spider-Man 2099 is going, but we still have a little bit more of this story. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Don't forget to join us at Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here